All right, today we are cracking open the code of life itself. We're talking about the fundamental rules that decide which traits get passed down from one generation to the next. It's a question we've all probably asked at some point. Why do we end up looking like this specific mix of our parents? Well, it's not random, and it's definitely not magic. It's a really beautiful and complex science called genetics. And believe it or not, the whole story starts in a pretty unexpected place.
So, let's meet Gregor Mendel. Back in the 19th century, this Austrian monk was just doing his thing in a quiet monastery garden. But the experiments he was running, they would completely change how we understand heredity and, earn him the title, the father of genetics. So why pea plants of all things? Well, turns out they were the perfect little subjects for this. They grow fast, which is a huge plus, and they have these really easy-to-see contrasting traits. No weird, confusing in-betweens, just clear-cut differences. He kept a super close eye on 7 of these traits. Things like were the seeds round or wrinkled? Were the flowers purple or white? This simplicity, this clarity, let him spot patterns that, amazingly, no one had ever really noticed before. And by analyzing these patterns over and over, Mendel started to figure out the basic rules of the game, the laws of inheritance that work for pea plants and, as we'd later find out, for us too. Okay, so his first big realization was that for every trait, there are different versions of a gene. We call them alleles now. One of those is dominant. Think of it as the louder one. If it's there, it's the one you're going to see. The other is recessive. It's the one that gets hidden or masked if that dominant one is around. So Mendel gets started with what's called a pure line cross. Basically, he took a plant that he knew only made tall offspring and bred it with a plant that he knew only made dwarf offspring. And the result was interesting. Every single one of their baby plants, this first generation, was tall. The short trait seemed to have just vanished. Poof. But did it really? Nope, not at all. Because when Mendel took these new tall plants and bred them with each other, that short trait popped right back up in the second generation. It was hiding the whole time, but it wasn't gone. This was a huge clue that traits are passed down as separate little packages. And he didn't just see it once. He saw it again and again. For every 3 tall plants in that second generation, there was 1 short plant. This predictable 3-to-1 ratio was his big aha moment. And you have to understand why this was so mind-blowing. For the very first time, biology, this messy, complicated stuff of life, could actually be explained with clean, predictable math. That was a game changer. This all led him to his first big law, the law of segregation. All it really means is that even though you have 2 alleles for every trait, one from each parent, they separate when you make your own reproductive cells. So you only pass on 1 of your 2 copies to your kids. But of course, biology is never that simple, is it? Mendel's laws are the absolute foundation, but it turns out inheritance isn't always so black and white, or, purple and white. Right, so sometimes neither allele really takes charge. With incomplete dominance, the traits kind of blend together. Think of it like mixing red and white paint to get pink. Then there's codominance, where both traits show up, but separately. That's more like having patches of red and patches of white side by side. And oh yeah, the rabbit hole goes way deeper. Sometimes you have genes with more than just 2 options, like with human blood types. Other traits, like skin color, are polygenic. That means lots of genes are all working together. And then sometimes you get one single gene that's pleiotropic. It actually influences a bunch of different traits all by itself. So, how in the world do we keep track of all this, especially in humans? I mean, we can't exactly run breeding experiments like Mendel did with his peas. Well, we use a very special kind of map. This right here is a pedigree chart. It's basically a family tree on steroids. It's designed to trace one specific trait or a disorder through all the generations. It lets geneticists play detective, spotting patterns and figuring out the odds of something being inherited. And you can learn to read it too. It's pretty straightforward. Squares are males, circles are females. And if a symbol is colored in, that means that person has the trait we're looking at. It's a super powerful way to visualize our own genetic stories. Now, understanding these rules isn't just for fun. It is critically important because sometimes there are mistakes, typos in the genetic code. And those typos can lead to inherited disorders.
These disorders might be Mendelian, which means they're caused by a mutation in just a single gene, or they can be chromosomal, which involves big changes to whole chunks of our DNA. Let's use sickle cell anemia as an example. It's a recessive disorder and it affects red blood cells, making them get all stiff and curved, like a sickle. The cause behind it is, well, it's shockingly small. Just look at this. The entire disease comes down to a single letter changing in the DNA sequence. The code that's supposed to read GAG instead reads GUG. That one tiny typo has these massive, life-changing effects on how your blood cells are shaped and how they work. It's incredible. And then mistakes can happen on a much, much bigger scale. A condition like Down syndrome isn't caused by one wrong letter. It's caused by having a whole extra copy of a chromosome, in this case, chromosome 21. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Our DNA is like this living history book. It's the story that connects us to our parents, to all our ancestors, and tells the tale of our entire species, one letter at a time. So, from the simple patterns in a pea plant all the way to the incredible complexities of human disease, our genetic code tells a truly profound story. And as we get better and better at reading that story, the real question is, what are we going to write in the next chapter?